Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're an aspiring indie game developer or just curious about what goes into making games in the 2025 year, then you're in the right place. Today, I'm going to be diving deep into my complete indie game dev toolkit 2025 edition, and I'll be sharing every piece of software, hardware, and even some key resources I use to bring my game ideas to life. Let's jump in. Now, starting off, Milanote. Milanote is where I'm going to be doing today's video. Like, all of the stuff is going to be shown through this because I think it might be worth visually demonstrating what I'm trying to say through this. So, starting straight off, we have these three different sections. My workflow kind of consists of, everyone's workflow probably should consist of this. Planning to get all the ideas into one set notion so you're not just shooting in the dark. Then there's the production stage, which is where the heavy working kind of happens. And then you have the marketing side, which also kind of just comes into content creation and keeping engaged with the community. And that's going to be obviously the marketing section. And I'm going to go through each individual tool that I use for each section. As a side note, all of these are free. Milanote has a free version. Pinterest is free. Unreal Engine is free. Blender's free, Audacity's free, LMMS is free, OBS is free, YouTube is free. The only two things I use that are not free are Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Premiere Pro. I can immediately tell you that for Adobe Premiere Pro, the free version would be CapCut, and for Adobe Illustrator, I don't really know any others, but I'm sure there are different illustration softwares out there that are free. So all of this is mostly free. Just to put that in there to begin with. But we'll start off with planning, and funnily enough, we're starting off with Milanote. Okay, so I've kind of taken all of the different things that are on Milanote, and because throughout this video, you're going to see how I kind of use things in Milanote to create and do things that are indie game dev related. But this is just like a short, quick introduction of like, what is actually Milanote? What does it do? Why do I use it? So I used to use an app called Hive. Hive was fine, except it cost quite a bit of money, and it didn't really have the fluidity and the rapid note-taking ability that you can do on Milanote. So with Milanote, you get a board. With this board, you've got all of these different sections and different tools that you can bring on that are to enable your brain flow and mind mapping and stuff like that. So, for example, if I wanted to create an idea for a game, I would get a column. I'd name the column something like new game ideas, and I can do several things then from here. So if I want to go down the route of going in detail into each game idea, I could make a new board. A board is a separate canvas, and I think this is really helpful. I'm trying to figure out how to go back, and there's a back button. So I can name this board something like, I don't know, idea 1. And go with that way and go into detail with every single idea. Or I can take a note from here, if I would delete that one, and just write little quick ones down, like a game where you jump over a pond and eat fish. That is not a game in any way. Please don't judge me, but it's a short game idea instead. You can then also have things called task tracking. So I found that in a lot of places, people use Trello for this and stuff like that. And if you are just wanting a task tracking app, use Trello, use something else. But if you want the note-taking app and you want the side benefit of being able to do tracking, then this sounds like an ad, by the way. I'm not sponsored by any of these. You can add a task like do game, add another one, do eating. Boom. And you've got a little task list. You can check them off and keep them like this. You can reorganize them as well. And overall, it's a good way of keeping in track, and everything can kind of be done within one place, which I find really beneficial. You can then have lines for if you want to like go, okay, these two things connect. There you go. They connect. You can write comments. So this is a collaborative thing. So I can go up and share, and I can share this to anyone. I don't know, just so look on it. Yeah, that's all fine. And you can share this with people. You can have multiple people on one canvas at any given time. So if you're working in a team, then this is great. Or if you're working solo, this doesn't really matter, and you don't need to worry about it. You can also have things like colors and stuff, and go here, grab this, and you can bring in a colors. These colors are just good. Like, this is more to do with like branding stuff. So if you're coming up with a brand, then this is really helpful. Or if you just want to get the colors, it's really good. I can go here, I can then eyedrop and select a color like that if you wanted to. You can drop links in here, which is something that I noticed that not many other things do and can do. And there's a very wide variety of things that you can put on this canvas that are actual different pieces of software. For example, this is a music thing. If I were to put music in this, I would be able to access the music from this page. If there was a link here, I can access it from this page. Google Maps link, YouTube link, I can access, or even document. I can access everything from one area, which is to help keep, and for an indie, that is very helpful. I found that particularly helpful because then I'm not going between multiple different apps. I like everything to be one place, which is why I'll be coming on to Blender later on. And then finally, there's also drawing and the table. So if you do want to note something down using a pen, a digital pen, then you can do it here. Excuse my brilliant handwriting. There you go. And then tables as well. I don't really use this. Like, if you're going to use table stuff, just use Google Sheets. It's free. This is maybe not so, but you could put like animals and then put like lion and then put, I don't know, strength. But I don't really use the table on this. But this is kind of my planning thing. So everything I do in Milanote is, or I use Milanote for planning, for ideation. Ideation is the biggest one though. Ideation, if I wanted to keep in track of things, I'd probably just use Google Sheets, but you can do this in Milanote as well. And everything's in one place, so that's why I use Milanote for planning. Now we're going to move on to Pinterest. All right, so with Pinterest or with game development, you're often wanting to visualize your game before you make it. Now, Pinterest is fantastic for this. Again, I'm using Milanote to then demonstrate the mood boards you create. But Pinterest is great for getting ideas. A lot of the time, people do struggle with ideation. I also struggled with this. But when you're looking through and visually seeing different other people's ideas, you can then conflate that. Is that even a word? Maybe. You can combine these ideas and create a new one. So, for example, if I was looking to create a forest game, I did this very quick, by the way. This is not very great, but I can find assets that people have used, environments. Generally, am I going for a horror theme? Is it going to be dark? Is it going to be, what is the UI going to look like? Or like front screen? What's the map going to look like? And then what is the actual game going to be rendered in? Is it going to be 3D, 2D, 3D pixel, 2D pixel? You can do all of that in here. Same with a platformer game. If I was just looking for the style of a platformer game, I can just look and grab different backdrops from other platformer games. If I was looking for actual level designs, then I can do that as well. And it's a great way of visualizing things with Pinterest. So I love Pinterest. And again, it's one of those free ones. Is this? Yeah, good. And it's very useful for ideation, which is why I use it. But nothing more really to say on that. If you're looking to visualize things, go on Pinterest. It is a great way of doing ideation as an indie game dev when you haven't got artists that are giving you mood boards and giving you different concepts. And specifically going into that, concept art, you could get away with taking an image off of Pinterest and basing something. Say I was to model a human cannibal, I could base it off of this image instead of making my own concept art. Jesus Christ. I am drawing with a mouse, by the way. I am not this shit at art. And then and there you go. Anyway, so this is why I use Pinterest for ideation and making mood boards. But moving on, production. So production, I find, is obviously everyone must find is the most difficult stage of development. Planning is really exciting. You know, you've got all these different ideas. You're just trying to put them into one main complex idea. But production is when you actually have to do things and physically create stuff and face the problems, face any issues, maybe even realize this game is terrible and you don't want to do it. But these are the 5 different tools I use to actually create the game. These kind of all, by the way, all of this does link in. It's not like, okay, there's a planning phase, there's a production phase, the marketing, and you can't use any tools from the marketing phase in the production phase. Like, for example, I would use YouTube in planning to get ideas as well. I would use Adobe Premiere Pro in production to create cutscenes and OBS and stuff like that. But I just organize them like this, so it's a little bit easier to just go over all of them in their own sections. So the next one, first thing we're moving on to in production is what engine do I use and why do I use it? And that is going to be Unreal Engine. So I'm going to start at the Milanote, and I'm going to very quickly move us to the actual engine, because I feel like at this point, I need to show what am I doing in the tools, why I use them, and I'm just going to show you guys behind the scenes of the game of Powerfall, my latest one. So Unreal Engine, before we go into that, I'm just going to quickly go over why I chose Unreal Engine versus Unity. So I did use Unity initially, and I made 2 games now. I made the game that got me into uni, which it was like a little platformer. It was not very good. You literally press W, and no, didn't press W. You press space and you hoped it would kind of go in a direction. That was it. And a big problem that I found with Unity versus Unreal, I struggled to code. Back in year 9, when I wanted to become a game developer, the thing that put me off was programming. But Unreal Engine and Unity do have visual blueprint systems. It's just that Unreal Engine is just so much more complex. So if you are able to code, Unity is perfectly good. There's nothing wrong with it. But if you can't code and you'd rather do something like advanced Scratch, because that's basically what Blueprints is, Unreal Engine is the right one to go for. Also, I was not really particularly looking to make mobile games. My games will either be PC or perhaps console in the future, but I highly doubt that's going to be anytime soon. Hence why Unreal Engine is also the better one, because it's higher quality as well. And after using both, I find that just everything in Unreal is a lot more streamlined. And the biggest thing with Unreal, this is coming down to learning. So if you're just starting off as an indie game developer, learning a software, I could find no videos on Unity Blueprint. What's it called? It's called Bolt. Their visual scripting system is called Bolt. There were very few videos on Bolt. Unreal Engine, on the other hand, is amazing. There are so many blueprint videos that it's so much easier to learn. And that is a much better way of getting into game development rather than trying to grind your way and brute force your way through an engine. But we're going to jump into the engine now. Luckily, it's just open here, so I don't need to do anything. So, 120 FPS. It was 60 the other day. Okay. Anyway, so this is, by the way, this is level 5, level 2. Okay. Guys, I promise that the difficulty curve, this doesn't look that hard. Okay, it looks quite hard. It's not as hard as it looks. There we go. So let's go over the general reasons why I'm using Unreal Engine, how I use it, and how I organize things as well, because I think that's quite important. So we start off with just the general UI screen. I'm going to be very quick with this because I don't want to take the whole video talking about the engine, but it is very important, so we spend a large chunk on it. So everything is organized into tabs, like you're on a website and you're looking at that stuff, and it's very easy to switch between tabs of all the different things. So if I want to look at the level, there's a level. If I want to look at a blueprint, immediately switch, and it has no problem. I can actually jump into the game, and we'll actually back out immediately because I've just realized the music's on. And so I like the tab system. It's all very organized, very streamlined. Then you have all the actors over here. You have everything into its individual sections. You've got lights, shapes, cinematic, media play. I don't know what that is. And all classes. And this is a long one. I've never used this one. The things I use the most are obviously the basic, visual effects, and lights. They're the main 3 things that I like to use. There's also a really good cutscene system, like level sequences in this game. So there's 2 cutscenes, sorry. There's an intro cutscene and an end cutscene, and all this is done in the engine. So I'm not creating an animation outside of the engine and importing it in. I'm making the cutscene in the engine so it can capture in-game footage, because if you're an indie game developer and you want to market your game, you don't want to be necessarily doing a lot of things that aren't in the game, because people will have wrong expectations. So if you take cutscenes within your game and market it as that, then people will will have a more realistic understanding of what your game looks like. So I also particularly like the movement system in this engine. I'm literally pressing WASD and my mouse to fly around. It is brilliant. Compared to Unity's like drag and click system, like this is me dragging and clicking, zooming and moving, and oh, I just, like this is how you used to have to do it in Unity. I don't know if maybe there is another method of doing it, but WASD to actually edit is amazing. I cannot get over how good that is. Also, a big difference with Unreal and Unity is, let's say, here's your blueprint. In Unity, you'd go into details, and this would be all you have, basically. But what you can do with the blueprints is the blueprint and the actor are the same. The actor and the blueprint are the same thing. You don't have a model that you then attach a script to. You attach the model to the script. And I'll kind of try to show how this works. So this is how I organize below. We're going to get this up as well. Everything is organized into these different things. There's 7 of them. Audio, the blueprints, levels, materials, movies, UI, and VFX. VFX is, no, there's not really much there. It's just, I can't really go into that because I don't know a lot about it, but I can definitely go into UI. The widget system in this game is amazing. I love that. Materials, I quite like as well. It's, we can go into Emerald. You have all these, this is like, the materials in Unreal Engine are very customizable because they have their own blueprints pretty much, or material graphs. And you can do a lot with them. It's very similar to Blender in the sense of node-based modeling, texturing. I don't know how to describe it. It's very similar to Blender. If you like Blender, then you like Unreal. But going back, the main thing that I like to use, obviously levels are all separated there, is the blueprints. So this is my blueprint folder. You've got all of these different folders, and each one is a blueprint. So say we wanted to look at the most basic block I have in the game, which is the they're all named very simply. It's like up, down block, forward, backwards block, so nothing crazy. Up, down block. Here we go. So this is the main block that you jump on. I then separate them into blueprints, materials, and models. Models is where I put the model, which I bring over from the FBX file from Blender. Materials is where the material is. And then you combine everything into blueprint, in the blueprint. So this is incredibly a really simple blueprint. Basically, when the game begins, activate the block, and it's an interp movement system, which means it will interpolate between 2 points, which basically gives it the appearance of moving up and down slowly rather than teleporting. And that's how that works. It's very simple. Then you have the viewport, and up here, so this is the blueprint. So this is like the script. Here you have a static mesh, and that's the model. You attach the model to the script. You then have other things that you can then attach on. There's a voice crack there. I want to die. And you can attach all these different components. Yeah, they're called components. You can attach all of them to one blueprint. And generally speaking, there's a lot you can do with this. Very customizable, skeletal meshes and stuff like that. You can add everything here. You can add audio, you can add lights, you can add a camera. Everything is done within this one area, which makes it so unbelievably streamlined. And then there's also collision boxes and stuff like that. But that is the general gist of like why I use Unreal Engine. Also, biggest thing, it's free. It's free and isn't a scammy little bastard like Unity was when I had that whole deal. I don't understand what the deal was, but everyone seemed to hate it, so I just didn't know. It was always it would install spyware. Unreal does not install spyware on your content. And also, there's Fab. I personally don't use assets from Fab because I'd rather make it all myself. And same with textures, but if you are looking to asset flip, then there is an inbuilt website with Unreal, and that is Fab. You can bring stuff over, import it in. It's really simple. So that is why I use Unreal Engine for the main production side of the actual building of the game. But now we're going to go back to Milanote, back to here, and the next one down is Adobe Illustrator. Okay, so Adobe Illustrator. Now, before anyone says you should use Substance Painter, you absolutely should use Substance Painter. But I'm very stubborn, and I don't want to use Substance Painter because I've been doing Adobe Illustrator for, like, I think 4 years by this point. So back when I was choosing my A-levels, I ended up doing this 12-hour, 24-hour course on how to use Adobe Illustrator. And that course taught me everything I kind of need to know, the general basics of how to use it. And I haven't really wanted to move to anything else since. So Adobe Illustrator I use for a couple of things. Thumbnails for videos, title cards, capsule art, if you want to do for the Steam page, for example. All of that was done in Adobe Illustrator. But the most important thing is texture maps. So when I make a model in Blender, I will UV unwrap it, do all of that, and export the UV map as a separate, as like a PNG file. I can then bring that into Adobe Illustrator and start doing stuff on it like you can see here. So I'll just draw some basic little things on it, and then I put that back into Blender, and then in Blender, I then bake the UV and textures into the object with different colors and stuff. And this is what I then bring into Unreal. I then make a material out of this, and that's just the general workflow of Adobe Illustrator. I'll go into Adobe Illustrator now. So this is the video that I'm just currently working on now. It's not a tier list. It's ranking game genres. I should probably put this video out before I put out this video. So I'm going to put out this one before this one, because I don't want you, obviously you can see why I ranked them. If you want to know why I ranked all of these like that, then go and check out the video if it's up. So I think I'm trying to think of the way to describe it, because I've used it for so long now where it's just kind of like everything is kind of come down to muscle memory. But I would recommend Adobe Illustrator purely because it is fluid. I mean, a lot of people use Photoshop. I like Photoshop, but I prefer Adobe Illustrator. What is it best used for? I would argue is just putting things together. So say I take a screenshot from my game and I want to add text to it. I go into Adobe Illustrator. I will bring my image, for example. Let's say the FNAF image is my title. I'll bring in the FNAF image. I will then bring in the title, slap them together, do some other things, maybe add a little bit of paint streaks or something like that, and do kind of similar things like that. I get why people use Photoshop, and I have used a little bit, but nowhere near as much as Adobe Illustrator. So I stick with that. I say, generally speaking, Adobe Illustrator is for texturing, making thumbnails, doing tier lists. I think it's just very flexible software. Like, you can kind of come in here, and if you want to do anything high quality or any art that's somewhat high quality, this is obviously not, but you can come in here and do that. And I just like the fact that I can just draw. I can add squares, or shapes, squares, preschool, text, tags, and the biggest thing as well is the text. I want to go into that now. If I was to use something like Canva, which is what I started on originally, I'm going to bring up page 2 of my first ever graphic design image. I'm going to bring it up right now. Yep, it looks like poo. It was terrible. And I kept on doing this for ages on Canva until I eventually moved on to Adobe Illustrator Mobile, which is terrible. And that eventually led on to me using Adobe Illustrator on laptop, and it was so much better. I'm trying to remember I don't even remember what I was really saying, but that's the gist of it. Adobe Illustrator is fantastic for designing the textures, in my opinion. The other one is Substance Painter. Again, I don't use that because I'm stubborn. But moving on. Blender. I have so much to say about Blender, so let's get straight into it. Okay, so Blender. I've chosen 7 images here from the most recent Blender stuff. I cannot stress how good Blender is. Blender is like, my university lecturer describes it as a kind of blend of a bunch of different software. So you've got Maya, for example, is blended in. You've got animation in there. You've got texturing, and you can kind of do everything in Blender. Now, this is why I like it. It's free. You can do pretty much everything in Blender. I'm pretty sure they're even making a game engine with Blender. I'm not sure if that's true, so don't quote me, but you can definitely animate, texture, and model in Blender, and sculpt, which is a big one. If you were to do that with any other thing, if you wanted to animate in some other software, then you're just spending more money, and indie developers like me probably don't have that money initially unless you get a successful game. And for example, Maya is incredibly expensive, and I personally don't like Maya because I think I've come from Blender, and Blender feels a lot more intuitive. Controls, for example, what is the shortcut to rotate in Blender? R. What is the tool to scale in Blender? S. What is the tool to move in Blender? G. Okay, so maybe not all of them, but generally speaking, R and S rather than in in Maya, I think it's like WER for scale, rotate, and move. I don't really see how that's intuitive in any way, but, each their own. the biggest thing is, to be fair, money. If you're an indie game developer, you're not going to have the money to afford all the different tools, unless you make a really good game. And that sounds like in the hundreds of thousands. I'm generally speaking, you can do things so quickly in Blender. When I first started learning Blender, you know what? I will put up on the screen right now. This is what I started with Blender. So that's whatever I put on the screen now, that's what I used to do in Blender. It was very early on. And then what I'm going to put on screen now was, I think, one of the best things I did on Blender. And all of the animations you see or saw at the start of the channel, for example, Be Not Afraid animations, those are all done in Blender. Everything was done in Blender and rendered out in Blender. And my whole graphics course in A-level was done in Blender because I just thought it was a useful tool to know. And I will probably be sticking to Blender for the entirety of my career unless it becomes paid, unless there's something wrong with it. But currently, as it stands, I love it. It's great. And you can add add-ons to it, which makes it even more customizable. In fact, I'm going to load up Blender. Give me one moment. Okay, we're back. All right, so this was done a long time ago, so excuse how it looks. This isn't a really good one. Where is the angel? There's an angel somewhere around here. Let me see if I can find it. Okay. No. Where is it? Maybe it's not in this one. Okay, let me see if I can look up here. Okay, it's not in this one, but... So this was me animating in Blender. I wonder if the animation still worked. Oh, okay, it does. There you go. Yeah. Oh, that's sick. Sorry, I've not looked at this in literally, I think, like 2 years now. And I miss it so much. So in Blender, if we just like look around at stuff, so we've got all of these tabs up here kind of specify why I like Blender in a really simple way. Generally, the layout is like the general zone of things. It's where you do everything, you pull the things together. You then got modeling, which is just for like putting blocks together. You've then got sculpting, which is like adding... It's not doing anything currently. I don't know why. I don't really do sculpting that often, to be honest. UV editing is to unwrap things if you want to texture them properly. It's out things. If I unwrap, I can grab that and stuff like that. Texture paint, I haven't really used it before, so can't particularly say much. I don't know what this is doing. Has it done something? I go to... okay. Go back. Don't ruin my project. And then you have shading. Shading, okay. This is something... Sorry, my throat is so dry. Hay fever is a bitch. Why is it not zooming out? Yeah, sorry, I get confused between Unreal Engine and Blender. They have slightly different controls. It's like in Unreal, I think it's control, like spin the spinny wheel to go in. And then in this, it's just spin the spinny wheel. Fuck, what is it called? Like the switch or something? I don't know. The mouse button. I think it's that button, yeah. Anyway, so Blender texturing materials work in nodes. And I think that's really cool. So here's a simple one. What I generally do is you get this is the main thing. This is where you connect everything to, and there's a material output. So this is for the magma. I got literally a PNG of a magma. I put it in, and it came out like this. Which obviously this was done a long time ago. This is without any untexturing, UV unwrapping, no UV unwrapping whatsoever. But as a whole, it's not horrific. It's a little bit shiny for what it is worth, but it's very easy to learn, I think. Blender's very beginner friendly, and as an indie game developer, a lot of the time it's probably a beginner kind of thing. And once you learn it and you've got a hang of it, it's brilliant. But moving on, animation. You can do all your animation side of here. It's the same thing as like Unreal. You can set keyframes, so have the position in X, Y, Z here, and you move it 50 in all of them for here. So over 180 frames, it will interpolate between those 2 points, creating an animation. Then you're rendering. Rendering I haven't really used, compositing I haven't really used, and geometry nodes. Geometry nodes I haven't used, but I know for a fact they are like one of the cool things in Blender, one of the more advanced things in Blender. So it's not like it's beginner friendly and only for beginners. It's beginner friendly and is advanced if you want to take it that far. So for geometry nodes, it's like I can select several points on the map and trees will spawn there rather than me duplicating and putting them like that and stuff like that. So, and then scripting, well, I have no idea. I don't even know what this is, to be honest. I've never even opened this. What is this? Wait a minute. /print. Does that do anything? /print. Okay, I have no idea how to use that, but I'm sure you could do something cool with that. So as you can see, it's got the depth. It's got the range of things you can do with Blender. And I personally love it because it has everything in one place. And I don't really want to be switching between multiple applications, burning through my RAM, trying to do everything. It will just slow my computer down. If you use Blender, it doesn't do this. But anyway, enough said about Blender. We're going to move on to the next two, which is going to be audio. And how do I do audio? God, my throat is burning. Anyway, so I've not opened either of these up for this little segment because I don't really need to. All I can say of Audacity and LMMS is, in fact, we will open LMMS because I think, yep. So, LMMS. Originally, I just used Audacity, and Audacity is really good to do voice. I used to make the YouTube video, audio in Audacity. I used to record it. It's good for recording and doing some basic editing. LMMS is where I make my sound effects. So I can take basses, put it in here. You probably can't hear it, but all of these are different sound effects, and you can then put them together and create a little soundtrack. I didn't originally put music into the game that I made in here, but during some playtesting and during some of my own feedback to myself, I was like, the music is the problem. So I ended up going on just free sounds, and the only asset in Powerfall that isn't made by me is the music, because I tried to go at it, but if it's really that detrimental to the gameplay where people are like, okay, I'd rather not listen to it than listen to it, I'm moving it and removing it and putting something better in that's done by someone who knows how to do it. So this is a work in development, I think, but LMMS, Audacity, both free software. It's great for just sound effects. If you want to get sound effects as well, you can go in here. I can go to effect, and there's explode and stuff like that, and you can change the pitch and stuff and help, and it's really good for sound effects as well. I use sound effects for jumping and things like that, and making space ambient and all sorts of stuff as well. So that's a very short one. It's good for music production, very simple music production, unless you really want to take it into a deep stage. But for indie game developers like me, I'm not really good at music. It's just somewhere to get something audio related that isn't just stealing off the internet like I have done. But anyway, that is production. That's all I can really say about it. And now we're going to go into marketing, starting with YouTube. Okay, so in this Milanote, I've just put a couple thumbnails, but I will bring up my YouTube in just 1 second once I've gone over kind of why I'm saying marketing and in the same category, why YouTube is in the category of marketing. So YouTube, I think, currently is probably the best place to market your game. Devlogs are fantastic to do. So this was a devlog, and this was kind of the announcement of just my entire career, to be honest. And by the way, I don't know if I should say this now, but Be Not Afraid, my Biblical Angel horror franchise idea, it's still happening, but it's going to happen in the future. I feel like I said this in another video, but it's just not something I'm capable of doing right now. I don't want to ruin it. So, and I know people say, don't wait forever to do the perfect idea. Well, I'm saying I'm waiting because I physically am incapable. I do not have the experience to spend 10 years making a game that probably won't be very good. So I need to know that in 5 years, I will be able to do it if it's a good idea. I kind of think it's a pretty good idea, but we'll see what Alex says in the future. So, mission complete. What am I on about? Sorry, I just got zoned out there. This is the two devlogs. I think devlogs are really good for kind of documenting your game, getting people engaged, getting people interested. And then you've got these tier list videos that I do sometimes. I think they're just a nice bit of content to create. It's something you can create. It gives your opinions. It kind of brings your personality out a little bit. And it's something that is interesting to watch, in my opinion. I always enjoy a good ranking video. The next one I'm probably going to make is going to be the game one. I have made that. I need to just edit it currently, but that will be coming out very soon. And kind of bridging the gap between the game creator and the player base, I find that all of the games that I like let's say Ark, some of the games like that aren't the best when it comes to communication. I mean, Ark has got it better for sure, but in fact, it's actually probably one of the better examples. I'm trying to think of a game that has poor community. management skills, but none really come to mind. But if you're not engaged with your community, you're just losing possible players or player attention, I'd say, especially when it comes to just announcements. If you've got a large following, more people are going to know about your announcements. So it's good to make your channel in the first place. But we'll go on YouTube now. So it's just my YouTube pay feed. It's not really anything crazy there. But if we go to my channel, so here the channel is, we'll go to videos. So here we kind of have all of my videos. I'll go through kind of what I think of each one. So these 3 were my graphic design A-level projects. Didn't really get many views, wasn't expecting them to. They're just there. So if anyone wants to see where it all started, then you got it right there. And then from this point onwards, that's when it kind of started. I kind of want to upload once a week, and I have been doing that recently, or even twice a week, like this week. This video did not do very well. Probably maybe too long or something, but then this one was the same. But I don't know. This one popped off. I was quite happy with this. And sorry, I'm getting off topic now. YouTube is great for marketing because of this thing here. You can put a trailer on YouTube and you'll have a massive audience for it to see it. This can then go into Steam as well, and people can you can link your Steam page to the video. People who watch the video, if they like it, they're going to check out the Steam page and kind of do stuff like that. So YouTube is great marketing tool. We're going to go straight from here to the next one, which is Adobe Premiere Pro and OBS. So OBS, all I'm going to say about OBS is that I'm using it right now and it's great. It records your audio, it records your video. It's great. Not really much else to say. I don't really do face cam. I don't do it at all, but I could do that. That's another thing it does. It's literally just a recording tool. I've got nothing to say. The only reason I use it is because it's free and it's good. So that's all I'm going to say. And Adobe Premiere Pro I use because it's an editing software tool. And that's what, again, most editing softwares, I've only used Adobe Premiere Pro. But I use Adobe Premiere Pro because it's included within the Creative Cloud package for Adobe, which is what I have. So I use Adobe Illustrator. Premiere Pro kind of has all the cool stuff it has on it, folders for different things, and generally stuff like that. There's not really much to say about it. It's an editing software. That's what I use for it. So those are all the free, almost free. Almost all of them are free indie game development tools that I use currently in 2025. Going from here, I probably will use something like Google Sheets for finances, because again, I was saying about the tables. I don't particularly want to include my finances in Milanote, and Google Sheets is a little bit more professional to use, I find. So I'll definitely be adding that onto the finances side and behind the scenes stuff and things like that. I can't really imagine I'm going to use anything else to production wise. I don't know, maybe Cascadeur, which is for animation. If you want to do like super complex animation, then Cascadeur is pretty good for that. But yeah, that is the complete indie game dev toolkit 2025 sub to studios edition. So I hope you've all been enjoying the video. I will now do a quick ad read. And there goes everyone. I'm joking. Well, I would just mention quickly, if you want to go check out my game Powerfall on Steam, then the Steam page is down below in the description. I hope, probably will be. Or if you just want to have a look at the trailer or do anything like that, then please feel free, but no pressure whatsoever. Thank you all very much for watching. I'm going to go and have some hay fever tablets because my throat is going to explode.